Hello! We're here today for a game versus Pr0nogo. Between Pr0nogo and what? You ever look at the player list and just wonder what the fuck went wrong with your life? We have a face. He's really trying to hold it in, but he's going to erupt. And then we have you. And then we have the... one of these. I think this is Darkened Fantasies or Deep Dark Fantasies. And for $300, he can fulfill your fantasies too with a surgeon glove. It's going to be fucking deep. So fucking deep. It's Terran versus Protoss. I believe Deep Dark Fantasies picked Protoss and Popo randomed Terran. We actually have two games to show today. So, I don't know actually really anything about these games, but Deep Dark Fantasies has been assisting with the project in low-level things, trying to work on I believe, a unit extender and a bullet extender, among some other things. I was also having some discussions with him a little while ago about rendering assets for the project, for example, the ion cannon, so it's a fairly accomplished individual. No idea how he plays. I don't think he hardly has ever played with us. I don't think I've hardly ever played with him anyways. So I'm actually have really no idea what to expect out of this game. Not at all. There has been some changes, some balance changes. I've been absolutely fucked out of my mind in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, because of my back. Actually, it's just been absolutely completely destroyed. So I haven't even played or looked at this past the little bits we were doing before. So I know there's been a couple changes since I was playing regularly with Popo. I think Panoptises have been nerfed a little bit, their movement speeds and their shields, and a couple of other changes that I don't remember off the top of my head. So I'm not sure if that'll come into play in this game or not. There's two barracks coming down for Popo, going for a bio-heavy opening. Drakened from Deep Dark Fantasies. I wonder if he's going to set up a dungeon or if he's going to head out in the playground. The probe is very, very aggressively chasing the Mason around, very angry. And the Drakened comes over and finishes it off. Crow and Frog. Probe here. I won't be surprised if we see a second gateway. That's correct. Pretty standard. Not aggressing at this time, however. Not choosing to take out the Drakened. Just kind of chilling there. There is Ahmed and a Maverick. Bunker out in the front this time, not around his base. But keeping two Mavericks over here in the back door, just in case. So a little bit different than we see in most of the games up to this point. Another probe is coming down there to have a look. Still pumping Drakeneds. Won't be surprised if we see Deep Dark Fantasies go for a early aggression. He might be getting on both Sergeant's gloves. This probe is going to die terribly and not be able to scout anything, but there's nothing terribly important to scout anyways. He might have to infer some assumptions that Popo might be going Fulcrum or expanding, just based on that bunker, since it really doesn't give him much information at all. So we've got some pretty heavy gas mining pooling up in Deep Dark Fantasies. Definitely looking to fund that dungeon. Won't be surprised if we see some tech from him and he just sits turtling at this point because he has made no effort to go out. Meanwhile, Popo's moved over here to hold this ramp, and he's going to expand here first, actually. Got some spinning there, some meat spinning. Just imagine a pilot just vomiting profusely as he spins around rapidly. No, it's still pumping Drakeneds. Got lots of gas pulling up, though. Again, not surprised we're going to see tech come, but I thought he might have paused Drakened production if his intent was to hardline into tech. The worker count is even. I believe that they're still working on improving the witness interface a little bit. We did just pass 420 in-game minutes. Smoke weed. Today is Valentine's Day. I started my day by having my sleep absolutely fucked up by being interrupted for a delivery that was over an hour and a half late. So yes, I'm a little tired, but it's all right. We can start off the day with a little bit of a slower entry into this game. It's like Pr0nogo might be thinking about just pumping infantry at this moment. It's made no effort to tech elsewhere, so I think Pr0nogo is going to forego any extra production, and he's going to go straight into Atlas. But he's a little behind on gas to do anytime soon, so he's going to have a little bit of a slower start in this game for sure. And yet another Deep Dark Fantasies has to think that something is up because he keeps sending out his probe. He's going to send it to the back now. This probe's going to die coming in this direction. And that's assuredly going to give away that that area has been secured for an expansion. Otherwise, why would they be so far out from their base? It kind of tells a lot. He is capping the gas, and he has pulled almost 250 gas at this point, and Drakened production is still going non-stop. So there's no expanding at all going on. He's well oversaturated, though, so if he does make an expansion, he can boot it up quite quickly. The probe did die there. And Pr0nogo at this stage is also capping gas and not really pooling as much, but he is catching up since his unit production is mostly just Mavericks at this point. He's also scouting. Both players have been scouting repeatedly, just sending workers off to a miserable death and just trying to feel out what each other might be doing, because I think they both expected each other to be a lot more aggressive. Looks like Deep Dark Fantasies at this point has considered, well, he must be expanding, so I'm going to go throw every fucking thing I have at that expansion. And it is a number of Drakeneds. This could prove to be a little bit of a pain in the ass. And maybe Pr0nogo saw that there was a billion Drakeneds and thought maybe I should just go for a third Rax anyways. And amassing a lot of his units over here at the Scribe scouting this location. I thought actually he was going to take that expansion. This SCV went the long way around into this area here and is going to spot this worker coming down there as the engagement begins on this ramp. It's very, very short and bloody because there's just so many dragons. Pr0nogo's going to have a hard time holding this. If he's not careful, he's going to lose literally every single worker here. He has to run immediately. A lot of attacks going on the command center and not on the workers. The workers had an ample chance to escape and we're trying to repair it momentarily. Pr0nogo's going to lose every single one. That is, on top of the military units, that's absolutely devastating. He lifted his bunkers over here. He's going to try to hold out. It'll be a little bit of a harder wall to break because of the ramp. This will provide vision up here, so he can't just sit on top of the ramp. And a lot of damage came down, a lot more than really what I expected. That's because only 1 or 2 units at a time can come down here, so it's very focused. If all the Drakeneds were able to surround this, it would go down for sure, unless he was able to repair it. So Pr0nogo is able to hold this off at this point, and now they're going to sit there while the command center lands down here and starts building. The Atlas is indeed being constructed. Pr0nogo is able to bank enough gas to get that started. Whereas Darkened Fantasies is still pumping Drakeneds and nothing but. Starting in Nexus here, has lots of gas banked and absolutely can go for a tech option. Anything besides the tier 3 stuff at this point is viable, except for the mineral cost. The mineral cost is going to be pretty bad until he gets his expansion up. So we might see that switch after that, but I don't know. He does seem quite intent just to spam Drakeneds at this point. Checking that other expansion, making sure nothing is in there. Now, this Atlas is absolutely fucked. But he's got his eyes on the oh, no. I was going to say he's got his eyes on the workers, but... Now, getting a little flustered here. Focusing on this too much. He's going to take a lot of damage. Allowing the bunkers to move in is a little bit bigger of a deal. Killing the workers would have been a lot more valuable than trying to force them to cancel the Atlas. Canceling the Atlas at this stage is an inconvenience. Killing the workers sets him behind a lot more when he's already been far set behind. So this attack flounders and accomplishes very, very little. The Atlas finishes, only like 1 or 2 workers died, and maybe 1 or 2 military units, and that's kind of it. And the cost for that is really quite high. So while the first attack was quite successful in spite of losing some units, the second attack was a disaster. He pokes down here and yeah, that happened quite fast. They all died really quick. Nothing really came of it. Just repairing. Most of these units didn't even have to move over there. Bunkers are kind of a mixed bag, I feel. That's obviously they're very, very strong, but if you're able to focus on the workers, then yeah. Plus, you gotta have units in the bunkers to make use of them. So everybody scoots inside. There's a little bit of micro here, but hoping he can force it down. It does go down, but the Ansil moves in place. The shields run out. This is getting really ugly for Popo at this stage. A little slow in moving these other bunkers. Machine shop is coming out. He has to move he was able to start this, so now he can move the Atlas. The tech is not available while it's in the air, but as long as he has the machine shop under construction, it doesn't matter. That bay goes down. Could possibly have picked off that end seal if he was really on the nose. At the end of the day, he can still get lots of worker kills. Looking for a tank. Deep Dark Fantasies just pouring on the pressure. And still trying to help the workers survive a little bit, but not going too well. Popo not pulling back his workers at all. Not until he gets the 200 minerals anyways. And this is a horrible spot to be in. Now, it looks like Deep Dark Fantasies has no intentions of taking any tech at this point, actually. He's just gonna keep going Drakened. It seems to work. But with the repairs and the shields on this tank, it is able to hold out. Popo survives, especially off the back of this expansion here. But not in a good spot. Many Drakeneds move forward. Tank goes down. Another one is being built. Might lose this command center. He's gonna have to lift it, it looks like. Oh, he might be able to out-repair it. Oh. Moved in this. Deep Dark Fantasies is not paying attention here. You gotta be killing these workers. Doesn't matter if you kill the command center, kill the workers. But the window of opportunity is missed, and he is forced to retreat once again. Still building more Drakeneds, but once we end up seeing like 2 tanks at a time here, he's gonna have to consider something else. Maybe even zealots or something. Because he's investing quite a lot into this. He has got a probe down here, looking maybe to expand there. Still Draken up of here, but Popo can hold this for a while once it gets 2 tanks up. With the Ant Seal and everything else, he is quite comfy at the moment. It definitely took a big hit, though. He's going to scout here, see that they are still camping there. He won't see continued reinforcements, but there's no reason to believe that there aren't going to be continued reinforcements. Deep Dark Fantasy is trying to take advantage of that money float. Looks like he might be taking that 3rd expansion quite soon. Yep. He is gonna... he's a little antsy. He wants to move in. Oh, he is going to move in. This is going to be bad. Now with the Trojan, he can cycle around the tanks and move them a lot more easily. So long as he's on the ball with that micro, it's going to be quite hard for the Drakeneds to penetrate that. At this stage, Deep Dark Fantasies should consider switching tech. Taking air would be a great idea, or architects, or something that can look around that expansion there. He may not know. I'm sure that this Drakened spotted, looks like this reservoir's on fire, so he knows that's there. You should at this stage really consider switching to air or something. Once all the tanks are out with the Trojans, it's just not going to be as cost effective to do it this way. But if he wants to stick to surface units, he's going to want something a little tankier. Now there's 4 tanks up. There's very, very little chance of Deep Dark Fantasies actually being able to get his fist up that ass. At this stage, all Popo has to do is just slowly crawl the line forward, tickle him to death. And yeah, it's going to be really hard for him to hold this now. He has to really catch the tanks or the Trojans. Looks like he's just going to all in. There you go. 2 tanks down with the Trojan. Not too bad, but the cost was enormous. His offensive is slowly folding. He's bringing in more, but his attention is getting very divided by this, and his resources are not doing so well. Looks like he might be thinking, no, he's building more gateways! My man is dedicated to the art of the fist. If Popo isn't careful, he can get certainly punished here. He's being so sassy. He's just gonna get spanked. Just more and more tanks coming. Another Fulcrum. Just continue to make tanks. Why not? Need some repairs here. Now losing the tanks hurts, but look at how many Drakenins must die for 1 tank. It's not really that big of a deal. If this is all that happens, Popo can slowly catch up. Look at the resources he's floating at this moment. The bigger issue is that if there is a tech switch that comes out, Deep Dark Fantasies has a lot of map control, but he hasn't started mining gas in that 3rd. So if he did take tech right now, he might be a little strapped for gas. He could be taking a lot more map control at this moment. He has total ownership. He's really, really dedicated to the one dream. Oh! Well, the Trojan dies, but it well served its purpose. It's very, very costly attacks for Deep Dark Fantasies here, but he is absolutely committed to it. So there's a Cenotaph coming. He doesn't go for higher tech. He's still sticking to low tech. This reservoir is being heckled. Popo's once fair amount of money is now being drained rather substantially. Although he is still sitting on an amount of gas. I'm not aware of any... Oh. I'm not sure why you're attacking with so few Drakenins at this point. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked with more Drakenins. It's not going to work with fewer. Just more more gateways. The classic PVT. Just make Dragoons. That's not going to work that well here. All it's really going to take is for Popo to hit a point where he's comfortable with his resources to start making more aggressive plays. And just being able to scoot around with the Trojans and the tanks, we've seen how annoying that can be to deal with. So there is an expansion coming here. I would have loved to have seen Panoptises. They're ridiculously strong, even if they have been nerfed a little bit. I'm sure the speed nerf wouldn't stop them from, for example, deleting this expansion out of the face of the planet. Especially before the first magical even appeared. This is quite late. Or, hell, I could have even just gone for, like, Empyrean. Right? There are no Sentinels or anything like that. I'm not sure what's going on here besides some wiggling. But he did end up pulling out of the base. He is making Legionnaires. They're basically Zealots, just a little faster, with a kind of a tag teleportation gimmick thing. A little frail, though. A little frail. I don't think they really do that well against very, very walled-in terrain. So, yeah, I heard those. I was looking for them on the map, but the blue is very hard for me to see on the map. A lot of workers did die to the 2 Madrigals, but they're on their own here. He might be able to get some extra kills here. Madrigals are not super expensive. They're a little expensive, but well paid their costs in this case. Still getting Cenotaphs. Wraith has come here to start heckling. There's an amassing of Drakenins in this expansion here, but they're not going to breach this. Not a chance. They might kill a reservoir, but Popo is very, very well holed up in here. Looks like he's looking for a two-prong attack. But the way with this is laid out right now, only one attack is coming in. And it's going to die absolutely horrendously. Oh, it's gross. That wasn't even all of his units. That might have been a misplay. So, what you normally would do is cut your losses at this point, right? Because the one attack hasn't been strong enough. But instead, he commits to the second attack, and it dies just as badly. This time, a complete loss. That's a lot of money worth of Drakedins to lose. He says he's fighting the hotkeys. He hasn't rebuilt from here. It's very possible he's not really familiar with the tech options available to him. When I began to win consistently PvT against Popo, it was by abusing Panoptises. But at this stage, it is quite clear that the the attack is what's getting him the most at this stage. Now, if Popo is careful here, he can get a lot of kills. He's taking a few hits. They did get cornered, though. He's able to kill quite a few Drakenins. And scoot away with two of them. Oh, more of them are coming. This is just missing the shuttle zealot drops to be a classic PvT at this stage. And the random reverse. Bobo's looking to finally take a third base. He's actually got two command centers. One just finished, so he's looking to take both bases. But the Dragonins are going to pile into here and end up denying one of them. That was actually 3 command centers that he built. That's 3. My man is my man is committed to the job. Absolutely committed. He refuses to diverge. Meanwhile, Popo has acquired money. Popo has acquired a lot of money. He built over here. Scouting over here, making sure this expansion wasn't retaken. Spamming tanks. There's a drop over here. A cannon died. Oh. 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 Ooh. Little cornered here, but if he plays his cards well, he can get out. Maybe get some kills. Certainly being a nuisance. Again, having Panoptises or some other air presence shuts this down quite quickly as long as you can spot them. But he's not willing to take anything besides the holy Drakedin road. Still quite in a good state to take the match, but he's going to have to take some executive action and hope that Popo continues to float 2,000 minerals and 700 gas. That's a lot of resources to be floating at this stage in the match. He could go straight for tier 3 if he gets more gas. He could consider making some more fulcrums, for example. Scale up his production so that he can spend that money. I don't think he has to worry about being attacked again, so he doesn't really need to build a lot of sentinels. But man, the Drakedins keep flowing. There's an expansion coming here, and he's scouting down to the bottom right. Deep Dark Fantasy is definitely in a state of dismay, having lost the initiative. Some idle probes here and there. There are some sentinels coming out here. That does deplete some of Popo's money. I thought he might just go straight for production since he was having so much success with being on the offense. But he might be a little cautious. He's probably noticed that there is no teching going on whatsoever. And might be overestimating the amount of units on the map at the moment. That said, Deep Dark Fantasies has turned on the switch and once again is spamming Drakedins. Another option for Popo at this point would actually be to go starports and take a couple of Sundogs and or even just some Wraiths and just run circles around these unprotected bases and force the Drakenins to constantly be chasing him around. If your opponent refuses to take air or have any real response to potential air and you start exploiting that, you just throw them completely off. With the massive sentinels and tanks, there's no way Drakenins alone are going to break that. He would have to have a vast number of them and then vision on that ledge. However, there is no vision, no observers, no air units, nothing coming out of DF except for, you guessed it, additional gateways. Popo at this stage is just kind of fortifying up, but I still think they're going straight to tech or a starport would have been perfectly viable. He hasn't even bothered with the Fountainhead yet. He's been quite content just to sit behind his tank line and let DF wash against his shores like an unstoppable tide of dead crows. But they have been stopped, though. The frogs have eaten them all. At this stage, it should be quite evident to DF that whatever he's doing is not working and he's going to need to change it up a little bit, but I don't really think he plans to. It's not really hardly harvesting gas anymore at all. No mining here, no mining there. Maybe the Wraiths killed all of them. He started mining here. This expansion was found. He landed the CC over there. Started mining here. Still fairly rich. If he just started mining gas and took some tech, he still could completely catch Popo off guard. But now that there are sentinels everywhere and there are magicals, it becomes a lot harder to break this without something like Empyreans or, you know, maybe Didex. Although Didex can die now. Now their shields were nerfed a little bit. They can die to these. You gotta be a little careful. But still, it's stasis. Right, just stun the tanks and then drop shit on them. Solarians should be a little bit more viable now than they used to be, although I still think that number of sentinels is going to kill their stewards very quickly. But when you have map control like this, you would just starve it out, right? Like you just take all the expansions. But he's still spamming cenotaphs. DF refuses to go into high tech. Even medium tech. This is all tier 1. The captaincies are up, and indeed tier 3 is on the way for Popo. Once Popo hits a stage where he can, say, for example, well, those silver tongues were very good. Yeah, the magicals just flew in there and instantly killed all. Oh, they're going to kill all these too. This is a lot more dangerous than a tank drop. I guess you don't need a starport when 2 magicals can just delete the worker line in a second or two. I don't think they have a target cap. So yeah, the worker count just dropped. That said, DF has a lot of money and can replace those, but so the Iron Foundry is coming up. There are, I believe those are apostles, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. This is it, right? Like the apostles of the tanks alone are kind of a big deal. A lot of money got spent for DF, and it's all into Drakenins and Legionnaires. This is, I mean, Drakenins are pretty strong, right? But now we're looking at reviving tanks. Some tickling going on here. It's just tying up their APM a little bit. Popo is sitting on a truly disgusting amount of minerals, going into nearly 3,500 for a moment there. What is the Iron Foundry builds? Oh, right, that's the phalanxes. We haven't really seen those. I think I've seen one. Phalanxes used to be, I think they used to be tier 2. And they would fire a stream of missiles, deal friendly fire, and kill all of your units. They also could turn into minerals. That was a very interesting bug. Now, though, they're tier 3, and I think they're a little beefier, bigger. So it's just maneuvering up here. He wants that expansion, but he's still not really quite strong enough to just dive into that without some losses. So it looks like he's just going to try to creep his shit into there. Maybe he is just going to charge into it. So the phalanxes are a little slidey, a little jittery, but they deal 10 times 10 with 5 armor pen. So not super amazing against high armor targets. Probably not really that great against the Zerg's melee, but against mass Drakedins, it should be quite... Mass Drakedins, indeed. They cover the entire fucking map. Popo has not continued to do drops despite how effective it was. And DF has a lot of idle workers. Oh my goodness. These do unsafe splash still, but yeah. They have 300 health. The Drakenids were never going to get close enough to even attempt to exploit the splash. They shouldn't have made the attempt. It was a disaster. He's trying to contain Popo, but this can't be contained with what he has. He doesn't have mobility, and his other units can't really navigate across the map fast enough to respond. And now he lost a chunk of his army. Any hopes of surrounding this is not going to happen. More phalanxes are on the way. Some units have come close to the sentinels and were killed. So he's trying to maneuver his units around, thinking this attack might be going for his base. It looks like it might. Now, he does have enough units. He might be able to hold out against this. There's not really a lot of units here, so... I think it really comes down to those phalanxes, if they are managed to be singled out, or if they get some good attacks in. Their range is quite high, though. They're just going to attack with impunity, apparently. Oh, they do more AoE now or something. They kind of scattered out. I wasn't sure what was going on there. I haven't seen these new ones, so they're totally new for me. Yeah, I guess they do like a little bit of a line, or maybe they're just following their targets. This is going way worse. I thought DF was going to hold that. It turned out terribly. Oh, he might be able to hold it now. Trying to chase those phalanxes while the madcaps just shoot at them constantly. Standing in the splash. It's a travesty. Wow. Just barely held against that defense. Absolutely ridiculous. There are still enough units here to actually threaten DF space. Just because of the front-loaded damage. Oh, some melee have finally arrived. DF holds. With his colossal amount of money, no tech, all Drakedin and Legionnaire, DF holds. Oh, there's a Pythian. Is that Babylon 5? Whatever it is, it's gone. It might have been a... oh, God. Trying to force his way into there. It's just... Here comes the attack in futility. He's never seen the tanks leave the base. He must know that it's not going to work. He's probably long given up at this point. He tried to cling to the holy dream. The only thing he found was more rockets. Oh yeah, there's player color names in the chat now. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so we're on to game 2. This is, I believe, DF picking Protoss, and Pr0nogo once again manually going Terran, because he was trying to figure out this matchup after I was causing him some grief. Coming out of that last match, Deep Dark Fantasies did receive the lash of the spanking. And he has to believe at the end of the day that as we can, and he might be hoping to do something a little bit more avant-garde in this match. Or he might just stick exclusively to Draken and Legionnaire again. Honestly, I'm not sure about his reluctance to do anything else, even try anything else. It wasn't like he tried other tech options and it turned out terribly for him. It was that he was unwilling to try other tech options, even though he well had the resources for it. Also not very conscious about defending his resource line despite repeated attempts. Successful attempts, mind you, from Pr0nogo to just kind of squish all of his cats. So Pr0nogo here is definitely going to be going for a Fulcrum first. It looks like, I don't know, he might go for Starport. You might think about that, but I think it's going to be a Fulcrum first. I bet you we're going to see some Vulture mine abuse in this. So they are quite viable against workers now due to mines targeting workers. And DF may be very, very woefully unprepared for this. You've got to be really careful. If you see that, I feel like you've got to immediately make, like, either you got to have Drakenins on point, or maybe like Manifolds or something might work too. But you probably also want a cannon just in case. You might be able to destroy the mine before it fully activates. A little bit of heckling going on here, but Pr0nogo has received enough abuse from me in this department that he's quite capable of dealing with the harass. There is indeed a Vulture coming to Gateway. Only a little bit of gas coming in. We'll see one Drakenid and not enough gas for 2. So he was not mining from this ridge. This is a different map. I'm not familiar with this map. Just judging by it, it looks kind of like a more conventional map. So, or maybe I did play it. Is this? No, this, I don't know which map this is. So he did drop a mine here though. So one mine not going to be used in the worker line. But this probe is actually dramatically slowing down his Vulture. Pr0nogo has no idea. His Vulture harass just got delayed by such a tremendous amount because of this fucking scribe just ball blocking him. Just completely fucking smashed. I don't know, he might have realized it at the end and just said, fuck it. It's a little late now. Now there's 2 Drakenins. I mean, hypothetically, he might be able to slip by. And if DF was sleeping on the job, he might not be able to do anything about it. But I think the Vulture will just die just trying to ascend that ramp. It looks like he's going to go for a second Vulture. But now there's 3 Drakenins there. God, that really blue-balled him. That really fucking gave him some testicular torsion. So much for the surgeon, Mesk. Just go to New Zealand and get your balls fondled. Holy shit. The ball fondling booth is absolutely in full fucking steam. Those gloves are well right sticky. Holy shit. So, yeah, just living the meme dream right now. Going straight for Drakenid all the way. Some idle workers here. This Vulture's gonna give a peek. Oh. He died, lol. So, Pr0nogo, looking... I figured he was going to take an expansion here. He's floating a lot of minerals. And he was mining from there. Not sure about that. Spent a lot of money Yeah, Goliath. Yeah. So I figured queued up a lot of workers. Some idle workers from DF here. 2 probes coming over here for reasons unknown. Everybody is idling some workers. He's mining from here, but nothing is happening. This is a desync, I'm pretty sure. This will be our 3rd attempt to get this to work. It's a little frustrating. Does happen. This looked to be more correct now. Okay. Yeah, okay. We bumped up, now it's working. So there's a difference between doing it in single player and doing it in multiplayer. We can actually see their selection circles now too. So that's nice. So I thought he was going to build a bunker here. I knew something was up when the SCV was idling there. And this SCV never built the CC there. So that's the changes. Okay. So we'll have to remember that in the future. Do it in local UDP. And it might, it might turn out more resilient. So we can actually see the selection circles too in this, which is nice. So that's a little bit of an improvement. And also we didn't see it in single player, so that's kind of weird. But you know, maybe they're never testing stuff in single player. I asked about it a while ago, and I was told there really shouldn't be a difference between it, but there definitely is. It comes with the territory. You know, definitely some... this bunker trying to be sneaky here. There's definitely some rough spots, right? Like, oh, he suspects, but Papa already pulled it away. I think he saw how many Drakedins were there and was like, oh, I guess we're doing this again. And I knew that dropping it there would not work out. Oh! 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 Absolutely slapped. Just slapped. Yep, he's going to take this expansion, but he has no idea that there is a secret bunker with 2 vultures in it just hanging out above this cliff. And at some time in the future, it could land and kill a bunch of workers. All right, so yeah, he did lift his 2 fulcrums over here. And these got dropped, and they're just immediately going to go right for his worker line. It's probably thinking, where the fuck did these come from? But he might have spotted it. Oh, it's a massacre. Able to click on that worker and finish it off before a death. There's a lot of kills in that. It was very successful. And even manages to keep the bunker. Can't really ask for too much more. Anseal, Cyprian's, the staple of Popo's opening. Very vulture heavy still, though. Still got mines in them, so you might see those try to do something cheeky. Another fulcrum coming. He might be looking more for a Goliath push. All right. Because he's got a few of them. He hasn't capped, so I don't think he's going to rush for Atlas this time. He knows there's going to be a lot of Drakens coming his way. So it's not building anything with that currently, but he is placing a lot of those mines. Looking ahead, going to spot all those Drakedins. There's the Goliaths that we expected to see. Another bunker. Oh, oh, oh! DF might die before he is able to advance forward here. He took a lot of damage. Oh, that vulture's dead. So he's nearly in the same situation he was last time. Except he does not have the initiative anymore. He doesn't have the huge amount of damage he did to Popo's base in the first game. So I think that he has to contemplate that this is not going to work. He can't brute force this down with Drakedins alone. We should see him go for a tech switch here. Or at least be content to contain and then go for a tech switch after. Because this is not going... It didn't work the first time. It can't work this time. He gets a nice pick off of that Trojan, though. We can keep the vultures locked inside the base so they can't do anything. then he's in a good position to take expansions, tech up, or switch to... honestly, you know, without going into like Empyreans or Architects or other high-tech like Air, I'm never really was sure how to break a Protos's base, right? Like with Panoptises, I was able to get a lot of picks and shut them down, but actually penetrating the wall is a lot harder. So it seems still like DF might be content to he's not capping the gas. He's keeping his money very low. But this is much more of an even start here. I feel like if DF is not able to take advantage economically, recover his very depleted workers, he's just going to run into the exact same situation where Pr0nogo is just going to sit back until he has either a very decisive defense in which he kills all the Drakeneds and feels compelled to push out, or another drop comes out that causes serious damage, or he just techs up into tanks. Remember, hold position is very buggy in this, so people try not to use it. It gives you that's like infinite range for some reason. It actually makes playing against this very hard, because normally you would just put your Drakeneds on hold position, but then it causes them to send bullets into orbit. So I know I've struggled a lot with that. It also means that Popo's going to be hyper abusive. Now, Pr0nogo is looking to defend against a hypothetical drop or something here. He's thinking he might go for tech, but his wraith so far is telling him that there is no tech at all. Nothing is happening. There's no shuttles, no cenotaphs, no cannons. It's very vulnerable and open. It's floating quite a lot of money. He's really intent on just moving his shit around here, looking around maybe for another opening or something, but it should be quite clear at this point there is no way out. He just has to go into this. The vultures are quite dangerous. Remember, no concussive damage. But he does lose most of them, not for very much gain. They're still a little hard to control. Because when you drop the mines, they tend to get stuck on them still. DF got lots of money in the bank, got a plane on his nose, and an absolute conviction to force this down with nothing but Drakeneds. Really? You gotta give credit where credit is due. A man has got dedication. Oh shit, but now he senses. He senses something is up. He does remember the pain from the past, but he's not going to protect his expansion. Oh no. Oh no. Popo looking to distract him a little bit in the front here. Keep his attention on the front while this Trojan moves into the back. And what's going to happen is that is going to drop here. And if he pays attention here, he's got to pay attention. There we go. Little bit of a delay. I thought he might have been able to go in there and drop mines and kill every single worker. Little bit of a hang up there. I thought maybe he wanted to drop some point blank mines, but maybe he didn't have any mines on him. Whatever the case was, they all died. He still did get a number of kills, and it does tip his hands. Certainly not a very successful attack overall. Oh my god. No, Just the incessant tickling. Slowly driving DF mad. You might consider this man the tickle meester. Absolutely barbaric. DF is not going for tech. No transports or anything of that nature. Just straight Drakened all the time forever. It's going to be tragic. It's going to be absolutely tragic. There's the Atlas. I was just looking for it. I figured it would be up. There's the tanks going into... He has so many fulcrums. We didn't bother building machine shops in any of the bottom ones, just the new ones up here. He's wiggling these all around, but there's nothing he can really do with them. He can kill this Trojan if he's very careful. That's a good pick. That's what he needs. Expands, keep your opponent contained. Take control of the map. Just this incessant tickling going on here. But oh my god. Oh, you just get an observer. It'll help. I promise. It'll make this so much less painful. Oh, he's gonna charge in. Oh my god! Oh, Jesus Christ! DF absolutely confounded. Bamboozled. Oh shit, no! He's getting the embassy, he knows. He's figured it out. This is just an avenue to enabling his Drakiden spam. Not distancing himself from it, enabling it. It's all part of the plan. Oh! If he was going for the witness, why bother suiciding your Drakidens for the mines then? May as well just tucker it out. Meanwhile, the phalanxes are coming out en masse. Popo has 1,000 minerals and no gas. May as well start building sentinels. It's a pretty safe investiture, especially since they can fly. There's the witness, is on his way. DF is very short on cash here. He never really quite replenished his worker count fully. And he never took a third base. So they're on even bases, but he's down on worker count. And his military count, although he kills vultures and such that get close to him here, he never really quite reaches the critical mass of like 150 Drakidens that he requires to actually penetrate this wall in the most difficult part of the wall to penetrate. It's like having a building covered in piss deflectors, and you keep pissing on the piss deflectors instead of the open window. That's precisely what's going on here. There is still a plane over here too. It gets to scoot in and check him out every single time. The Madcaps, pretty much self-explanatory. Exact same thing we saw in the last game. I'll probably see Apostles. Are Apostles tier 2 or tier 3? I think they're tier 2. But does he even need Apostles at this point? Probably not. Another gateway. Cannons strewn out here and there. I have a feeling Popo's about to show him where the leather club is. It's 2 blocks down. He could probably tank crawl this and still manage to push out. He might want to. But there is still a number of units here and there. Oh. DF's getting a little flustered. It's absolutely tickled. He does have the witness. But now that he gets close to the mines, he gets shot by tanks. So the window to get rid of the mines and have some successful push here has closed already. The mines are no longer the thing that's really stopping him from getting into that giant wall of bunkers. It's the fact there's 50,000 fucking tanks. Now that DF faces the same situation, he should feel compelled to change his approach. This is a much harder kind of map to break that base in than the last one where he had more of a broad area and more of a droppable ledge and 2 separate ramps to go from. He does have a little contain here. Try to compel Pr0nogo to stop throwing... Oh, lag. Stop throwing transports at him. Same time, Popo doesn't feel brave enough to actually move out yet. Maybe once he reaches a critical mass of magicals, he will move out. Well contained, but unable to breach. Nope, here it comes. And the Madcaps march forward with a handful of vultures. Draws them near the tanks for some extra damage. A little bit of sentinel fire coming in there. Few magicals. DF's army just melts into that Miku blue-colored instant noodles. Or perhaps a medical-grade radiation found in Brazil. There's no time like the present to spam Drakenedans. DF is a committed man. His witnesses spot various Terran units coming into his base, but there's nothing he can do really about it. Popo is floating such a disgusting amount of money. And he doesn't even really need it that much. Oh, that's dead. At this stage, it's only a matter of Popo getting off his jockstrap and assuming a figure 4 leg lock. The nature boy is back in town. A plane flies by. Oh! No! A small victory, a moral victory, but one nonetheless. Popo has no need to attack or really do too much of anything here. Just poke and probe until he feels confident enough to thrust in his fist while screaming his attack name. DF at this point chooses to charge forward rather than submit to the lash of the spanking, but spanked he will be a second time. Absolute massacre. Now that Popo wasn't completely fucked for the first quarter of the game, the conclusion was telegraphed quite early in. Tech in this is very important. No longer can you be content to sit in tier 1, even with the more expensive and powerful units like the Goliath or the Drakened. Most of the games that I won Protoss versus Terran against Pr0nogo by going things like Panoptises were by forcing Pr0nogo to continually build Goliaths, delaying tech, being able to snipe magicals, and keeping him contained while attacking myself. By holding the map and controlling them and then taking up to things like Empyreans, I was able to abuse massive economic advantages and then range on top of it. Disregarding any possible balance considerations for the above, it is worth mentioning that that is definitely a very sound strategy and it works because tech in this is so much more important. In old PvT, the bread and butter was Zealots, Dragoons, High Templar, Shuttles, and Reavers. Because your tech tree just really wasn't that big. It didn't really need to worry about too much else. Sure, in a lower skilled game or a large map or an FA or something like that, you might see like mass carriers or, disruption web. Arbiters can make appearances in late games, so on and so forth. with arbiters being quite powerful if it does go into late game because they can just take your units here and there. But beyond that, it was still the bread and butter. The units you were taking were dragoons and zealots. In this, because of the larger tech trees and the greater power differences between those tech trees, once certain breakpoints are reached, you're going to have some troubles. Bunkers are also excessively higher in utility than they used to be. And early units like the Vulture, because of changes to damage systems, do in fact still pose a threat to Drakenins. So even though Drakenins are very powerful units, and I have won games off of the back of nothing but Drakenins, they are still tier 1. And you have to respect the fact that once you hit a certain point where you have an advantage, you have to be always aware that you want to continue to work off of that advantage. In many cases, that means that if your current attack is unable to breach a defense, but you can use it to control the map, it's much more valuable to use those units to control the map and not try to breach the defense at all. If your opponent is continually spending resources on walling up, you may as well spend your resources on just containing them. Just enough to contain them. That balance can be hard to achieve, but once achieved, you can use the rest of your attention to take control of the map and also tech up. For DF in this game, switching to something like Architects would have been great. Switching to Air probably wouldn't have been as effective, but a drop of a bunch of Drakenins into the mineral line in the main could have potentially scored him some early damage. Getting the Witness a lot earlier would have also helped a lot with dealing with the mines. But I think that once it was quite evident Pr0nogo was going to just sit behind 1,000 bunkers walled up, that there was just really no point even trying to spend money trying to breach that at all. Just let him sit behind his wall. Let him sit there and rotate on his stool back and forth. Contain him and contain his transports as you did, and then focus on taking over the long game. Take over the economic wins. Once you start sitting on like 1,000 minerals, 500 gas and stuff like that, maybe it's time to start thinking about building Empyreans, Solarians. Or perhaps you could even go for things like Demiurges, or if you prefer casters, there's the Mind Tyrants, which are very strong, especially if Pr0nogo tries to leave his base. Because Maelstrom affects basically every unit now. It's no longer restricted just to biological units. I was able to defeat a substantial Terran Tier 2 Air Force just with a handful of Drakenins and a Mind Tyrants. Albeit Mind Tyrants are quite overpowered back then. They have been nerfed a little bit, but it still withstands. Maelstrom is very powerful. The higher tier stuff for Protoss is all very strong in its right applications, and Drakenins are really at that stage in the game when you start seeing like the tanks coming out and stuff like that. Drakenins should be more like a supplement rather than a staple. Using them to control the map and deal with the units like the Vultures and stuff like that, rather than relying on them alone to try to break mines, Vultures, tanks, Goliaths, bunkers. For one, they're too large to fit them into such locations where they're going to be able to apply enough damage to compete with that kind of firepower, especially since bunkers grant increased range to their occupants. There's going to be so much more budget, worth of money, worth of firepower coming onto you than you are onto them until you move directly into them. And moving directly into them costs you money because your Drakenins are going to be dying before they're in an optimal position to deal the most amount of damage. It's why trying to force your way into bunkers and tanks with Drakenins really just isn't worth it. Especially in this project where bunkers have more range, they're dealing damage to you before you are dealing damage to them. So you need to have an appropriate amount of more units, of more firepower to overwhelm them when you do enter range. Otherwise, if you just come in even, you're going to lose. That's not even accounting for the mines and the stuff like that. I think it's just like perhaps like some unfamiliarity with it, but it also was like there was just a distinct unwillingness to explore, particularly in the first game, and there was a lot of opportunity just to build like Stargates, just build air, see what they do, right? Or go for one of the more expensive structures later in the tech tree. But once his pants was ripped, that was it. The jockstrap was coming off too.